Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the American Speed F1 podcast. I am your host, Anthony Doria. Glad to be back with you. It's been a while since we've been here. We've had school and breaks, but podcast is back. It's currently a Wednesday. I'm filming this. It's usually Monday, but it's good to be back for episode 3. It's been a very long off season. Hopefully, everyone is holding in here, because I know I am. But listen, we're getting there. We're getting close to preseason tests and all that. But anyway, welcome back. Hope you guys are doing well. So obviously we're in the off season, so we've had to think of some off season content, which is usually the very hard part of talking about Formula One, is that you have to think about other topics to discuss when you don't have races and everything. So I did come up with a topic, and I'm actually very excited to share this with you guys, as you may have seen on my Instagram page. Also, speaking of Instagram, you can go follow my podcast on Instagram. It's at American Speed Podcast. You should find it. The profile picture is the screen you'll see on the YouTube here as well. But yeah, you can follow me there. You can listen on YouTube at Dead Podcaster Society. You should see the logo there. It should pop up. Episodes are there, and also on my Spotify at American Speed Podcast. So there's really 3 ways you can follow what I'm doing. But anyway, let's get back on track here. Oh, I just did an F1 pun there. I did not mean that. But anyway, off-season content. This topic has been something that has always intrigued me a lot about it, especially from growing up in sports. You may know what this is, but a topic that's always intrigued me, and it's a what if. So if you maybe don't know what a what if is, essentially a what if is when you look at something that happened. You look at an event and you look at maybe how it could have gone differently. Like I know every sport has them. I don't really have a specific example, but you get the point. It's essentially looking at what would have happened if something different happened and how it could have affected the future. That's what that is essentially. So we're going to do it for F1. I have a list here now. I do want to point out this list is not in a particular order. This is not supposed to be like a ranking of which one I think is the highest. It's really just a list I wrote down. But anyway, I'm really excited for this, so let's get into it. So our first question we have, one that I think most F1 fans would probably know which one this is. First one we have is, what if Jules Bianchi didn't crash at Suzuka 2014? So most F1 fans probably will know what this is, but if you don't, Jules Bianchi is still the last F1 driver that died due to an F1 crash-related incident, which happened at Suzuka 2014, as I just stated. So the context here is that Suzuka was a very wet race. It was one of the wettest races that year. And there was a caution. I believe it was one of the Saubers. I don't know for sure. I think it was one of the Saubers crashed. I forgot the area, but so it was kind of weighing. And I believe that they didn't put out a safety car, a red flag. So they were still kind of going at moderate speed. It was definitely not race speed, but it maybe should have not. It maybe should have been a red flag and stuff like that. And you actually can see this on YouTube too, but you look, Jules Bianchi, he went off track and he hit the crane that was trying to, pick up the stranded car, which was something they still do a bit actually. So he lost grip, he slid off the course, and then he hit the underside of it head on. His head hit it. And if you watch it, you watch that, you know that that's not going to end well. Even if you survive, you're not racing again. And unfortunately, he died. It actually was a year later. He actually was technically alive for almost a year after that, but it kind of sucks. What really sucks about it is that what's mostly known is that he was actually, in the Ferrari Academy. Marussia at the time, they used Ferrari engines, so they were, like a customer team is what some people would say for that. And it's he had talent. Everyone knew he had talent, and you saw it. The Monaco P9 was arguably one of the greatest drives in F1 history, considering how bad the Marussia was. It was usually always towards the back. And actually, the only points scored. And that actually was the only points they ever scored in F1, believe it or not. Marussia did not score any points besides that one race, which is kind of crazy to think about. Bianchi had talent, and just the same, he never got to show. Ferrari, think about the godfather of Charles Leclerc. We could have seen them driving in a Ferrari together. That would have been great to see. So it's very unfortunate we did not get to see that. I would have loved to do that. So next question, this also relates to a crash, not F1 crash, but what if Kubica didn't have his rally crash in 2011? So this is referring to Robert Kubica, who is still to this day the only F1 driver that hailed from the country of Poland. So Kubica, at the time, he was with Renault. He was with BMW Sauber before that. He was showing a lot of promise. He was leading the championship in no way. Like, he really showed promise. People said he was one of the fastest driver on the grid. Like, he was kind of known for, like, always getting the most out of his equipment. I mean, especially with Renault, he was kind of known for really dragging that car to where it shouldn't be. Like, he was giving it to points, even, like, podiums here and there, when that Renault was definitely not one of the best ones. It was a bit better. I feel like it was a bit better than, like, maybe, like, 08, 09. When they had like PK and like Alonso. I think it was maybe a bit better, but it definitely was not where Renault used to be back in the day. But he was known for like a lot of his equipment, and then so it's 2011 off season. He goes rallying, kind of thing we see in F1 drivers, and he has a really bad crash. And you may not know about it, but essentially, it was, very life-threatening. He was like, I think he was like trapped in a car for like multiple hours. I think he was trapped in it. Like, his like arm was like badly hurt. Like he almost died. Like, he actually almost died, which sucked about it. But he did recover, but it took him till 2017. And by that point, he was significantly older. I mean, he was able to get back. I mean, he went to Williams. He was a reserve driver for 2018. Eventually, he drove for them in 2019. Obviously, that Williams was the worst car probably in the V6 era ever made. And obviously, I mean, listen, like, he wasn't the best, but I mean, like, Russell was always dominating him. I mean, obviously Russell had more experience to that point, at least like in a car like that. I mean, Kubica really could only use one hand because I think one of his hands was bad. I think he only had to use like one hand or something like that. I'm not really sure how that worked, but like something like that. So I mean, Kubica was kind of behind the eight ball. I mean, he gave it everything he had, but he was not the same that he used to be. Didn't help that he had a really bad car either. That obviously didn't really help his case. So, I mean, yeah, it's very unfortunate, but the main thing about this question that I wanted to talk about was, and this came out actually many years later, I think Kubica himself said this. I don't know for sure. I believe he said this himself, is that he said one of the most painful things about that was that he actually had a contract with Ferrari for 2012. He could have driven Ferrari, which at the time, VA Ferrari was definitely good. I believe 2012, was that? No, I think it was... Wasn't it? I think it was 11 and 13, I believe. I can't remember. I believe it was 20. Actually, I think it was actually 2010 and 2012. So 2012 was actually one of the years that Alonso really lost to Vettel in the Red Bull. So it kind of makes you really think, like, could Kubica have beaten Vettel? Could he have gotten to him? I mean, unfortunately, we'll never know, but it kind of sucks because, Robert Kubica, many people say he was like one of the champions that got away. Because like he had talent, he was really fast. I mean, like, there's so many videos that just display how good he was. I mean, that Monaco lap, I believe it was the 2010 Monaco P2 lap he had. The Singapore race where he like was driving with legit one hand and passed like three cars, got the P7. Like, there was just so many moments where he showed how great he was, and he really just did not get to show it. Really no fault of his own either. So yeah. Really makes me think, well, what if we saw Kubica in a Ferrari? I feel like that also is one of the more known ones too. Now, the next one actually is not talked about as much, and I feel like it should be talked about more than what it is, at least in my opinion. So it's, what if Hamilton stayed at McLaren? So if you're maybe a newer F1 fan, like maybe the most recent years, you may not know this. I mean, I feel like everybody probably knows about Hamilton, but so you may not know. But if you don't, so essentially, Hamilton started his career with McLaren, 2007 to 2012. He was with McLaren. So McLaren was usually, V8 were a very good car. They were consistently P2, P3. They were a race-winning car. They were always better. And then obviously he wins one championship. Could have won two if it wasn't for 08. I'm sure you guys all know. I'm sure all you guys know what I'm referring to. Spygate, if you didn't know. But anyway, beside the point. So anyway, 2012, I believe his contract ran out, and then he goes to Mercedes. Now, pretty common knowledge that everybody thought he was committing career suicide by doing that, because Mercedes that would have been their fourth year back in the sport. They came back in 2010, and they were fourth. They were fourth and fifth place car. Not great, not horrible, but compared to where McLaren was, they were a lot worse of a car. I mean, even Schumacher couldn't save them. So he went there, and we all know the rest. I mean, Mercedes became dominant, pretty much won everything up until 2021. And Hamilton, still one of the best drivers ever, over 100 wins. 6 world championships with them, got over 100 wins. I believe he won 81. I think he won, I believe, 82, 83, I believe it was. Like that's a lot of races he won with them. But so really makes you wonder, what if he didn't do it? What if he stayed? Because we all know McLaren fell off a cliff after 2014. I mean, just think about it, like what would Button have done in McLaren? Would Rosberg have maybe stayed longer? Would he have gone longer than he was? Because he was only 31 when he retired. We actually would get more into that actually a bit later, actually. Bottas, would Bottas have ever gone there? Would Schumacher have not retired? Would he have actually stayed a couple more years? Would Bottas have ever gone there? What would Williams have done? Would they have gotten Stroll to that seat in 2017 when Bottas left? Would Stroll have gotten earlier? Like there really is. I feel like that one has a lot of stuff you could think about what could have changed if that happened. Anyway, so next question. What if Ricciardo stayed at Red Bull? Now, this is referring to 2018 when he left, because it was common knowledge that Ricciardo, he didn't want to be the second driver because obviously Verstappen was coming into his own. And then he went to Renault and then McLaren pretty much, and his career was not the same after that. I mean, Renault, he did have some success there, but just McLaren, and then Resi, he was never the same guy. But it makes you wonder, I mean, because Red Bull was getting good. I feel like 2018 was like Red Bull was finally getting to where they wanted to be. Like the next few years after that is when Red Bull were probably slowly the second fastest car behind Mercedes. So, I mean, like if he stayed, think about 2021. If Ricciardo would have stayed, do you actually think he could have won 2021 championship instead of Max? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a hard question to ask. I mean, it's a hard question to ask because no one really asked that. It's kind of a question to ask. We can't really answer that. But I mean, think about would Checo, Sergio Perez, would he have ever gone to Red Bull? Would Albon? What would happen to Albon? What would happen to Gasly? Where would they have gone? They probably would have gone to Red Bull if Ricciardo did stay, or maybe significantly later. Could Gasly have done better if he had more time to develop? Could he maybe have done better? Would Albon have ever gone to Red Bull? Would he have gone to another team earlier? So there's a lot of questions to ask in that one too. So it's a very good one too. It's kind of a shame because Ricciardo was a good driver. He just never really got the treatment he deserved, honestly. Next one. What if Alonso stayed at Ferrari from 2015 onwards? Now obviously Alonso, we all know 2015 he left Ferrari, went to McLaren. We all know how that went very badly. So if he would have stayed at Ferrari, it still would have been Raikkonen. Raikkonen still would have been there. It would have been him and Raikkonen still, which what it was in 2014. Because the main thing that really I was wondering about, because you go to Charles Leclerc, because 2016 is when he officially became one of Ferrari Academy driver. Because if you really think about it, I feel like because Alonso was getting old, so it's not that I don't think Ferrari still would have done that. I think they still would have had Leclerc in their academy, and he probably would have gotten there at one point. I don't see Leclerc not going to Ferrari at some point, even if that did happen, because both of them were getting old and they were going to leave and retire eventually. Because I mean, Alonso would have only been there for 3 or 4 more years, and I mean, and when Alonso retired is when Leclerc went there. Because Raikkonen was there till 2018, and then obviously they had Vettel. So I think he still would have gone to Ferrari because the timing still does pretty much match the same of what happened if he would have gone. But the main thing is, you look at Vettel. What would Vettel have done? Would Vettel have stayed at Red Bull? Would Vettel have stayed? Would Raikkonen have stayed? A lot of stuff there too. I feel like Alonso could have maybe done it. And you think about it, you gave Alonso that 2018 car, I feel like you could have given a fight to Hamilton. I mean, it seemed like there were definitely times where it seemed like I feel like Alonso is one of the very few drivers that you actually could say gave Hamilton a run for his money. So I don't know. He could have won. Maybe I don't know. So next question. So hopefully no Brazil fans are listening to this. Hopefully no Massa fans listening to this. What if it was raining heavy at Brazil 28? What if it was raining heavily at Brazil in 2008? So really good question. So if you don't know the context, this is referring to the championship deciding race in 2008 with Massa on Hamilton. And yeah, that is the infamous, is that Glock going slowly? That's where that infamous line came from, if you didn't know. Because the thing that happened, now the context to this is that, see, it started to rain. It was raining towards the end of that race. And you had Timo Glock, who was, I believe, in the Toyota, I think it was. Was it Toyota? I think it was. Is that he was on dry tires, which is kind of why he was up that high. And the thing, because Massa won because Hamilton slid off the track at one point. I think like a couple laps before this happened, and he went back. I could be. I think it was it fifth place? I believe Hamilton had to finish at least in fifth place. Or was it? I don't remember what place it was, but I believe where Glock was. No, okay, I will say I did forget what place he had to be in, but all I know is that like when Hamilton fell back, he needed one more spot. Hamilton was one spot behind what he needed to get. It was sixth, fifth, or fourth. I don't remember. Essentially, Hamilton lost the lead and had to get one spot in order to clinch it. So yeah, Glock was in front of him on the final lap, and not to mention this was the final turn, like the final official turn. I believe the front stretch has that turn like right before the front stretch, but yeah, I guess the last true official turn. And he wasn't on wet tires, so he kind of slowed down, slid off, and then Hamilton went through. Obviously, the infamous Martin Brundle was that Glock, is where that came from. And would Massa have won it? Would Massa have won? Is the question that would have been asked there. Because a lot of people say that he was the most deserving one. I feel like between Vettel and Massa, it's kind of hard to tell who really deserved more. Because Massa thought he was. And like many people call him the 36-second champion because he was a champion for 36 seconds until Hamilton got by Glock and won it. That's kind of probably one of the more heartbreaking ones, especially because I mean that's still talked about. I mean 2008. There's a lot of questions you could do for 2008. You could do what if crash kit didn't happen? Like there's a lot of stuff you can do for 2008. That's just one of the most known ones, honestly. So next one, as I said earlier, this is actually about Rosberg. I actually went into this a bit earlier. Actually, what if Rosberg didn't retire in 2016? So we all know Rosberg 2016. This is coming off. He beats Hamilton because. I think the main logic that most people have said for this is that, like, listen, like, he was fighting Hamilton for 3 years. I mean, it was one of the most heated rivalries in F1 history. Like he gave it his all. He was giving it his all. He finally got what he wanted to do. Like, he got his dream. Drove for one of the best teams, got wins, got a championship. At the end of the day, that's really all you want in F1, just to win a championship. And he gave it his all to do it. It took everything out of him to get it. So he was just like, listen, I know I'm young, but I gave it everything. I'm proud with what I did. I got what I wanted. I'm done. But the thing was, he was only 31. Now, that definitely is maybe a bit older. Now, I mean, F1, that isn't really old. I mean, you really could go. I mean, look at Alonso. You really could go to your 40 if you tried to. Theoretically, you could go to 40 if you could. But it's also like, because he was still young. I mean, the logic was just like he gave it as everything. He got what he wanted. I mean, he didn't really have a motive to say anymore. Like he really didn't have a motive to keep going, honestly. But because you think about it, though, when you look at it, you think to yourself, like what would have happened? Because we all know Bottas replaced him. Would Bottas have stayed at Williams? Would he have ever gone to Mercedes? Like who would Mercedes have used? Would that maybe have resulted in would Pascal Wehrlein ever gotten a seat? Would he have maybe been the replacement? Would Wehrlein maybe have gotten the Mercedes drive? Pascal Wehrlein, he was Mercedes Junior. He drove for Sauber that one in 2018. I mean, what would Bottas have done? Maybe would Rosberg be in Hamilton again? Would Rosberg have won more? There's a lot for that one, too. It's just, the main logic was that he just didn't really have a motive to do it anymore. I mean, you really look at it, there wasn't. So I think that's kind of why. I mean, it definitely has a lot of questions because I feel like Bottas especially is who that question would kind of revolve around. Because, what would he have done? I mean, maybe, Wehrlein, who was, I think, one of the guys they want to get the seat to, maybe he would have left the academy. He would have gone somewhere else. Bottas maybe would have never gone there. He would have stayed at Williams maybe. Maybe Stroll never gets to Williams, at least at that time. Maybe he does get later, but maybe not that time. There's really just a lot to think about for that one, really. Now, This one is probably no. This is one of the most. This is one of the most recent, and probably one of the most known in F1. Because there's a lot of edits. If you go on TikTok, you have for sure seen an edit of this race at least once. I know you have. So this question: what if Vettel didn't crash at Germany 2018? So a bit of backstory. There's a lot of backstory. So 2018 and 2017, but this year especially, was the infamous red versus silver, Mercedes versus Ferrari. 2017, Vettel had a chance, couldn't do it. So 2018, it's looking great. First half of the year, Ferrari's looking really good. Mercedes is kind of on the back foot a bit. They're not winning as much. And Vettel seems to have the momentum, and he seems to have it, the championship with him. So going to Germany, his home race. In qualifying, he sets arguably one of the best pull-ups in F1 history. I actually believe that was a track record at the time. I may be wrong, but I actually believe at the time that actually may have been a track record for Nürburgring, Hockenheimring. I don't know if it still stands now, but I believe at the time he said it was a track record. And it was like a great lap. Like, if you watch that lap, it's definitely up there for best qualifying laps in F1 history. So he does that. He's on pole position. Going into the race, he has an 8-point lead on Hamilton going into this race. So race goes on. He seems to be doing well. Now, at the time of the crash, this was later in the race. At the time of the crash, he's first and Hamilton is fourth. So obviously, he wins this race. That's a lot of points gained. I believe he would have up 21. I believe if the race would have played out that way, he would have gone 20. He would have had a 21-point lead going into the next race. But obviously, as most of you will probably know, that did not happen. It started raining, and he slid off and crashed and DNF'd. A lot of people actually say that was the race that ended Vettel. Because a lot of people say that he was never the same driver after that. I mean, okay, it's not like he wasn't bad. I mean, like 2019, he wasn't bad. It's not like he fell off. Like, he was still good. I mean, maybe he didn't win as much as he used to. But, like, I wouldn't say he fell off. Because think about it. I mean, Vettel would have had at the highest 21-point lead, because Hamilton could have gone third. But essentially, he could have had up to a 21-point lead. And it makes you wonder. Now, I will say for this one needs to be taken with a grain of salt a bit, because even if you look at this, even if the rest of the year played out the exact same way it did, even with this win, even with this going differently, Hamilton still would have won by like 40 or 50 points. It would have been a lot closer margin, but Hamilton likely still would have won it. Because the only thing you really can think of here is that, like maybe Vettel doesn't fade, like Ferrari can keep the momentum up and they can just win it because they have a bigger lead. Because I feel like the better question that relates to kind of this is, what if Ferrari didn't fade? Because Ferrari kind of faded. Because I think Vettel only won one race after Germany, which I think was Belgium, which was 2 races later after that. I think that was the only race he won after that. And he was fading far behind Hamilton. So I think the main thing there is like, what if? So there's kind of like two. It's almost like, what if he didn't crash, and what if Ferrari didn't fade away? Like, what if he didn't fade? I feel like that's kind of the better question you could ask for that type of thing. But I mean, yeah, that was heartbreaking. I mean, yeah, it did. Honestly, Vettel, that was painful, especially in front of his home crowd. He did that too. But unfortunately, little did he know that would have been the last good chance he had of winning a championship at Ferrari. It kind of sucks he failed. I really wish he would have gotten it for Ferrari. We're hoping Leclerc gets it. We got to hope Leclerc or Hamilton can get it, because someone's got to get it eventually. Like, come on, Ferrari. You got to get it eventually. It's been almost 2 decades. Can you please do it already? It's been almost 2 decades. So, yeah, that's a very sad one, and one of the most recent ones, too, as well. All right, our next question is, what if Alonso went to Red Bull in 2009? Now, I will say this one may not be known, and to be fair, I actually didn't know about this for the longest time. But, I mean, because he would have been at Renault in 2008. They were really rough that year. But it's like, really, really think about that. Just imagine Vettel and Alonso, two of the best drivers in that decade and era, in the same team. I mean, you thought Weber gave Vettel a fight? Just imagine Alonso. Imagine the stuff that would go on between those two. Oh my God, that'd be crazy. I mean, yeah, that's crazy because I did not know this. Like, it was in one of those videos where it's like driver moves that almost happened. That actually almost happened. And that would have been crazy to think about. Oh, not really much more to it, but that would just be crazy to think about how that would have played out. Now, our next one. What if the halo didn't exist? So, if you're new to F1, so essentially the halo is, you see where the driver is. It's that little bar thing above the driver. It's supposed to protect them, from stuff hitting their head. It's supposed to protect their heads mostly. And this idea was, I think it was like proposed in I think it was like 2016 is when they started actually trying to do it. And many of the drivers didn't actually like it at first. I mean, they thought it was ugly and think it was needed. Now, 2018 is when they introduced it, and in the first year, and there's really 4 instances. There really is 4 instances you can look at that something could have gone differently if the halo didn't exist. You go to 2018 Belgium and you look at Charles Leclerc. When Alonso went over him, that tire almost hit his head. If that halo wasn't there, that car's hitting his head. He's probably most likely dead. You go to 2020. Romain Grosjean fire crash Bahrain. Everyone knows that. He was one of the people that didn't want it. And then the halo is actually what saved him from the flames and the crash. And then you go to 2021 when you have the Monza between Hamilton and Verstappen when Verstappen went above him. Like, you see where the halo was, you see where the car was and how it hit the halo. Max's car likely would have hit Hamilton. And that would have not ended well. And then you go to last one we have is 2022, the British Grand Prix. You all know Zhou Guan Yu's crash where he slides on the halo side down the front stretch, flips over the tire barrier in the first corner and hits the wall. I feel like that's the main incident where you really think he's he's dead. I mean, the other crashes, they maybe wouldn't be. It's kind of hard to tell if the halo wasn't there what would have happened. They maybe would have been. But Zhou Guan Yu's crash is the crash that for sure that he would have died if the halo wasn't there. It was just it really makes you wonder, because a lot of the drivers didn't want it. And it really makes you feel what if it wasn't there? We could have lost more drivers. We could have had 4 or 5 more deaths besides Bianchi after that. So I'm sure glad we have it. Now, obviously, the drivers are happy we have it now. It's really been helpful a lot of times. So the drivers definitely changed their mind on it, and it's very good to see that it's working because we don't want anyone to die. This Bianchi 2014, I think we want to leave it there. We want to leave it there for at least a long time. And we at least want to make it within controllable to stop it. That for sure. So it's a very great advice, and I'm sure everyone is glad that we have it. All right, so we're writing down here. This is the third to last one we have is fourth to last one. We have what if Alonso passed Petrov? So this is referring to the 2010 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Essentially, this means that Alonso, for a lot of days, was stuck behind Vitaly Petrov, and this was, as I said earlier, this was one of the years that Vettel barely won it. And he was not able to get by him, and he ultimately lost because of it. So the main thing is that if he passed him, it's I feel like it's safe to say if he would have passed Petrov, he would have most likely won it. Because listen, he was in the Ferrari, he was kind of down the field a bit. I think it's pretty fair to say he probably would have won it if he passed him. Because I wonder how what the championship margin was there. Because I know that was definitely one of the years where it was very close. And if you go to how many points it was, and if you were to see how much it won, Vettel won it by 4 points because Alonso finished 7th. So Alonso finished 7th in that race. So 7th place got you 6 points. Like all he would have now he won, and I will say won the tiebreaker. No, I will say I don't believe he won the tiebreaker. Now Alonso, he couldn't have gotten. I don't believe he could have gotten 5th because if he got 5th, that would have been 4 more points, and Vettel had a tiebreaker. I think Vettel would have had a tiebreaker there. I think Vettel was on the podium because you go to wins, they would have had the same amount of wins, so they would have gone to second places. They both have the same amount of second places, but I think. So yeah, I don't know how to determine it. I don't know how to determine it, but I think Alonso would have lost a tiebreaker there. So he would have needed. So Petrov would have been in 6th. If he got in 5th, if he got 2 more spots, he had it. If he would have gotten 2 or 3 more spots, he probably had it. And you know, if we go to that now, if we were to go to that race and kind of see it, now I think if we go to that race and we kind of see how it ended. So you go to the race here. So we all know Alonso, because dude, 5th and 6th was right there. Now, obviously, now he could have gone 5th. Now I feel like Alonso at the very least would have gone 5th. Now I don't know the tiebreaker. Now I will say I don't know how the tiebreaker worked. Like I truly don't know. Like at least to me, like the second, first, and thirds with what they usually do, and it seemed like they're the same. So I don't know how they would have done it. I can't confirm that he would have won it if that happened. But he at the very least, Hamilton at the very least would need a 5th, and 5th place was doable. I mean, Kubica was only about 4 seconds ahead of them, and that Renault and the Ferrari was definitely a lot better than the Renault that year. I feel like he probably could have been able to get it. Now Rosberg would have been a tough task because Alonso would have had to pass him pretty early. Alonso would have had to pass Petrov pretty early to get to Rosberg because Rosberg finished about 13 seconds ahead of them. So, I mean, like it was doable. If he passed him early enough, because like I don't know what happened, because like I don't know the exact laps of like when this happened, but he probably could have. He probably would have won it. He could have given a fight, and he probably would have won it if everything went his way. Also won too. So next one. What if Lauda didn't crash at the Nürburgring? So if you didn't watch the movie Rush, great movie, I recommend watching it, but this is the 1976 Grand Prix at the Nürburgring, the Nordschleife actually, which is now only used for testing. Not even F1 cars, other road cars. So if you don't know what the wreck is, it's a wreck where it was one of the right-handers. He wrecked, caught on fire, got hit by another car, and then actually lived. And he was out for a couple races. And the crazy thing is that the fact that he raced again after that was pretty amazing. But I feel like, considering how close the championship was the entire year, even when he was out, most people have said that Lauda most likely still wins it. But then I actually have something else too about it. I thought it was something else too. I didn't think about this originally, but I saw a comment related to this. You think about it. If he doesn't crash, it was bad conditions. He doesn't crash there. You remember Fiji? Fiji was downpouring. Think about it. He doesn't crash the Nürburgring. He thinks, and it's a title fight, he has to race it. What if that crash happened at Fiji? And what if it was fatal? Like, I feel like that's the thing you think about. If he didn't crash, like, not only would he probably have won it, what would have happened at Fiji with arguably even worse conditions than what it was there? Like, that's what you got to really think about there. I know it's kind of deep thinking, but there really is a lot you can think of for there. And I think that's what it really is to me. So I feel like that one especially has a lot of thought to it. So second to last one, what if Mercedes signed Hülkenberg in 2013? So we're back to Mercedes. So this was also a driver move that almost happened. So Hülkenberg would have been, was he at No, he would have been at Williams, I think. No, Hulkenberg would have been at Force India at this time. Force India was kind of getting there. They weren't great, but they were kind of hitting their stride a bit. I mean, obviously, we all know he lost a podium the other year. We all know that crash happened when he lost the podium. Still has not gotten it. But if Mercedes would have signed him, I think it's pretty safe to say that he would have won. That he would have gotten a podium at the very least. I mean, listen, Hulkenberg, I never thought he was a bad driver. People don't think he's a bad driver. Like, he's very good. Like, I don't think people think he's a bad driver. He definitely has shown, like, especially qualifying for Haas, like, he really showed that if he has everything with him, he can deliver. And Mercedes, especially in 2013 is when they were getting to their dominance. And I mean, obviously, hypothetically, he keeps the seat there. He is for sure getting wins podiums without a doubt. Like, with how good that Mercedes was, I find it pretty hard to believe that he doesn't do it. Like, Hulkenberg's a good driver. He's been able to deliver in kind of bad equipment. I don't see why he couldn't do it. So the last one we have on the list today is, what if Daniel Kvyat didn't get sacked from Red Bull? So this was obviously 2016, and probably one of the most infamous driver swaps in F1 history. Only 4 races in. So Daniel Kvyat was a Russian F1 driver. Actually, to this day, he's still currently the most successful one. I think he's in like, I don't know what he's in now. He drives like a Lambo. I think he drives like a Lamborghini, like IMSA or something. I don't know, but he's road racing now. So 2016, he gets sacked. And at the time, people thought it was kind of unfair because when you look at the years before, he actually beat Ricciardo. I think it was the year before he actually beat Ricciardo in points. So it almost seemed like the sack was unfair because, I mean, he wasn't necessarily like under delivering. I mean, he beat Ricciardo. He wasn't necessarily like doing bad, or I guess under delivering is what you would say. I mean, like, he was doing good. I mean, he got podiums in 2014. It just seemed like it was a bit rushed. I mean, like, it was 4 races in and you already did it. Like, you didn't even wait till halfway. And it's like I know you had Max Verstappen in the wings, but like, there's no way you could have known he was that good. I mean, like, there's no way that they thought Max Verstappen was like that generational. Because I mean, honestly, like, Toro Rosso, like, he struggled there. Honestly, he struggled in the Toro Rosso. So like, I find it hard because the thing was that because did Red Bull really think that Verstappen was like a generational talent? Because I feel like they could have known that, right? Like, did they truly know? The only reason I can think of to why they did that, I mean, obviously it's Red Bull. They're known for doing that. But, I mean, like, they didn't do it 4 races in. I mean, like, with Albon, they at least waited till the end of the year. I mean, and Gasly was actually underperforming, though. Like, Gasly was underperforming. Like, that made sense. But they at least waited. I mean, he was underperforming, but they didn't do it after 4 races. They gave him a bit, and he didn't prove it. Like, so this is probably one of the most questionable decisions, and one you could probably go on the longest for. Because if Kvyat stays at Red Bull, like, what happens to Ricciardo? What happens to Verstappen? Like, better question, where would Verstappen have gone if that happened? Because I feel like Verstappen probably would have had wanted to wait. Like, he may have gone somewhere else. And Lord knows what happened there. So that's definitely a good question too. Honestly, kind of one that you can't really get an answer for. Because like, it was kind of brash, but like, you truly cannot like know what would have happened if it ended differently. The only thing you really could say to that is that probably Verstappen doesn't go to Red Bull, and then Kvyat maybe has success. But I mean, like, we don't know if he would have stayed after that. We don't know what would have happened after China, I think it was. Like, we don't know. So like, we truly don't really know what would have happened to Kvyat, though. Hypothetically, he stays, but we don't know, like, is he successful after that? The only thing, as I said, the only thing you really can say is that Verstappen probably doesn't go to Red Bull, or at least not till later in this career, at least. That's all you can really say. But anyway, that'll do it. I hope you enjoyed the what if topic. We'll have some more off-season content. We're in the planning right now. We'll definitely have some more content. We'll have a new episode next week. This has been Anthony Doria for American Speed Podcast, and thank you for listening.